Exactly. If it's 17 years on and all the perpetrators have been brought to justice, why can't we not see the tapes? And this is one of the early documents that Jesse Trinidad got that it had the FBI actually describing what they saw in the tapes. And it says that they saw the suspects get out of the vehicle. Suspects, plural. There were additional people inside, or additional person inside the van with McVeigh. You know, there were hundreds of tapes that were duplicated. We interviewed the gentleman that actually duplicated the tapes. Said hundreds of them. And the FBI is saying that they can't find them. You know, one of the biggest events that they ever investigated, and they say that they can't find them. Luckily, Jesse Trinidad is working with a judge that is actually trying to take them to task.
Yeah, up in Salt Lake, doing a pretty good job. In fact, just ruled against the feds again. I want to ask you about that, but I want to get stuff on record here. You know, with Jane, while we've got her,
absolutely,
to break down what's going on. But looking at this and seeing everything that they've done, I mean, it is just so mind-boggling. But a lot of people say, well, I see History Channel, Discovery Channel. They're airing all these shows of the official story right now, not showing the local newscast with the bombs, not showing the governor saying bombs, none of this. But then I talked to all the survivors and people. They've done all these interviews with the media and told them what you're saying now, and the media across the board cuts it.
Exactly, and this is what's very significant about Jane's story, is that the building was actually coming down 8 to 10 seconds before the truck bomb goes off. Now, there's other people that were in the building that day that say the exact same thing. VZ Lawton got hit by debris, and another gentleman jumped under his desk, and then the glass blows in. According to the FEMA report, that blast wave was traveling 1,700 feet per second. How is that possible? I mean, you were in a Windows 95 class that morning,
yes,
right?
I had just gone up to that, and from the 7th floor to the 9th, and where I was, just prior to that, everybody was killed. But when I got up there, yes, you could be, what you felt initially was the ground below, which is all concrete. You felt it, first you felt the ground rumbling back and forth, and going from east to west, and then, or west to east, going back and forth. And then you felt, a few seconds later, you felt the rise of the floor underneath you, actually that rise of force going straight up, and that loud noise. And then when I looked up, the only thing I saw was the roof suspended in air above me. And the smoke.
The instructor actually said that it was an earthquake,
yes,
right?
she thought it was an earthquake and was telling everybody to get under their table at that time, or, you know, under their desk. And I sat there for a second because I said, no, this isn't an earthquake. Whatever this force is, it was so strong. And then I was thrown, I started to move, and I was thrown over to the center of the room. And the next thing I knew, two of my coworkers, Sonia Key and Joy McGirt, came over, and they were digging stuff off of me and getting me up on my feet. And I said, first I told them, I said, I can't move. And I'm afraid to move. And they said, no, you have to get up and get out of here. And it was, you know, it's a bomb. And I looked out, and everything around me was so black. The smoke was so thick that it smelled like sulfur, and I had to put my hands over my nose and face, because if you were to breathe in, it felt like it would just burn your lungs. So they helped me go down the staircase and go down. But when we went down, when we reached the floor where the children were, there was a man in the doorway, and there was debris and things along the stairwell going down. I asked him, I said, I need to get in there and help bring the children out. And I was really concerned about that. And he said, no, the children are taken care of. You have to get out, go out the building and go on down. So that's what we did. But I do want to stress that getting back to the bombing itself, I saw one man the day before the bombing. This was on a Monday afternoon, and he was carrying a handheld, and I presume it was a satellite phone. But he was talking to it, and he says, well, now how does this work? And I remembered being able to hear that. And he was a tall gentleman. He was like 6'1", maybe something like that, 6'2". And no, I think maybe 6'1". And but gray hair, had glasses on, and had a GSA uniform on. And I looked at him, and I thought, God, you know, he really looks kind of old to be learning a new job. I mean, I'd never seen him before in all these years. And I thought, well, maybe somebody is on vacation or training or something. They've just put this guy in there for the day. Well, I let it go. And then the next morning, that was the day before the bombing. Then the next day of the bombing, when I came in after seeing those men outside, I was going to mail a letter inside because we had a post box there. And right to the south of that post box for the mail, there was a doorway that led to the stairwell. And out of the stairwell came this man and another gentleman. And they looked at me, they tucked their heads down, and they were, I don't think they were more than, at the very most, maybe 2.5, 3 feet from me. And the shorter gentleman, he had on a T-shirt underneath his. They both had on those uniforms, and I thought, from GSA, and I thought, well, now that's strange. We have two, and they were moving. Once they looked at me, they put their heads down and they scooted around the corner. And I thought, well, maybe they're just somebody here, and I mentioned that I thought they may be from outside even.
And who did you later identify that man as?
Yes, I looked and looked, and I was shown some pictures by another investigator, and I identified him as Gary Hunt. And it was some time after that it occurred, some months after. I had gone to Ohio to visit my son for the holidays, and my daughter was there at the house, and she was over for the day to take care of my home and everything. And the doorbell rang, and she opened the door, and in walks a gentleman from Arizona, and he was with another man, and he walked in the house, and he walked over to the telephones and starts disconnecting everything. And he said, because my daughter said, my mother isn't here. And he said, well, I want you to tell your mother that I'm a friend of Gary Hunt's, and she has identified the wrong person. And she needs to be aware of that, and I want her to know that. And I thought, well, that's strange. He comes all the way out there to tell me that. And so when she called me long distance and told me, and I said, okay, thanks, thanks for telling me and everything. And she told me if they didn't leave, she would call the police. And so they did leave.
Who is Gary Hunt?
He is a special agent for the FBI.
Yeah. And then, of course, we've got Danny Boy, one of the head FBI guys. You said he was in Dallas and got a flight up there the day of the bombing, and it turned out there were no flights, and he wasn't on the flights. And then we learned hotel receipts. Danny Boy was actually there the day before. Tell us about Danny.
Danny Colson, yes. He actually said that he had driven up here in a big hurry that day, because we actually have video of him, on the scene that day, and it later came out that it wasn't. There was no way that he could have done that. His claims of the hotel receipts, everything, he had to have been here prior to the event. Well,
also too, Alex, I want to bring in that Louis Free, his assistant, was there that morning right after the bombing. They have pictures of her directing people. The fire department couldn't even go in to rescue anybody because she would not allow anybody in there other than FBI people. And they were taking out money. They were taking out. I understand
all the papers.
Papers from.
And that later got confirmed that you got the head Clinton
yes.
people, you've got the FBI director's assistant there to block the fire department from, on the scene. This is incredibly scripted, incredibly staged.
What type of intimidation did you actually experience?
I felt like my phone was being tapped, because when I would pick it up, you could get these clicking noises on it. And I did finally call the phone company about it, and I said, I really believe my phone is tapped. And I said, can you check that? And they said, well, I said, I want to find out if it is. They said, well, we can't report that to you. If it is tapped, we will notify the police department. And I said, well, what if it's the government that's doing it? And they said, well, we're sorry, we can't give you that information. Well, after that, it stopped, and then I didn't have it anymore. So, Alex, it was another lesson. If you're not paying attention, it's amazing what they can do. I know when I went over to some of the different people's homes, that I was told that that they could sit in that the FBI, the federal people were sitting in cars, which were 2 blocks away, and they could hear everything that was being said within the house.
Well, and the phone tapping, I mean, this was also something that the Oklahoma Bombing Investigation Committee experienced. They actually called a number that they had that could identify if the phone was being tapped, and it was, so they were definitely monitoring anybody that was countering the official story and actually trying to get the truth out. I mean, who are people going to believe, the actual survivors that were in the building, like Jane and VZ, or the official story? And so they did keep a close eye on them.
And it's again, it shows human nature, and that with all the people, I was so distraught over the fact that in this country, that they would come in, they would bomb where there were children involved, and it's being taken care of. And who is there but the same FBI leaders, whether it was with us or Ruby Ridge or anywhere, the same people keep coming up, heading up the investigations. They're the ones who give the orders. It's amazing that after all of this took place, all of the people, whether it was the police chief, whomever, they all got wonderful jobs, making big money, improvements, and it's just, I don't know, it's so discouraging that people will not stand up. Even my own people within HUD that were there, there were so many good workers, there's so many good people, they were wonderful, and yet they are so one-sided in that most of them refuse to believe that this can't be anything other than what the government says it is, even when they change their story a number of times. And I tried to get them to identify. I wanted us to look at pictures. I asked to look at pictures of people, of FBI people I thought I could identify through the police department. I went to several attorneys about it. I talked about it to the FBI. I sent a letter to Stephen Jones. I sent a copy to my own attorney, my doctor, and for verification of what I was saying to the FBI. I gave them descriptions of the men that I saw, precisely where they were, times, everything. I had an appointment with one FBI agent. His name was Agent Schwecke, and it was going to meet me in my union office, and I arrived that day. He never showed up, and then I finally called the number he left me, and he said, I've got busy with something else, I can't make it. So we set another date, and again, he didn't come, and so that was it.